Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to you, whenever you're finding this video on Level With Me. Just want to say before the video starts, thank you for stopping by. This project has been in the works for almost 4 months. 4 months ago, I came up with this idea, and then I spent 20 hours watching the films, probably just as long doing the script and finding clips. I spent 7 days editing this because, life gets in the way, and this is most definitely the longest project I've ever worked on. So if this is the kind of content you like, I would appreciate a like, a sub, all that good stuff. But most importantly, this is a channel about learning and discussion. So any tips, tricks, or thoughts on this subject, leave them in the comments below to dish out some XP to the players in our community. I'll be sure to check it out as well. Let's get into the video, shall we? Thank you. Level with me. Is Harry Potter actually a wizard? Hello and welcome to Level With Me, the YouTube channel where we can level up our TTRPG experience together. My name is Will, and today we're going to be debating this iconic quote.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Is he though? Is he? When I thought about this question, when I thought about it more and more and compared it to the D&D world, I truly believe that Harry Potter from the films would not be a D&D wizard. He would be a warlock. And I'm saying from the films because I read bad. Before we jump into this video essay, just a reminder that this table works with shared experience, so any tips, tricks, or thoughts on the subject, leave them in the comments below to dish out some XP to the players in our community. This is the first proper video essay I've done on this channel, including statistic tables. It is 26 pages long. This was recorded over 20 clips, with 21 now including this one, spanning 2 hours, 24 minutes and 45 seconds, and taking up 29 gigabytes of memory on my computer. So if this is the kind of content that you enjoy, please drop a like, drop a sub, all that good stuff. And now with that cringy thing out the way, onto page 1 proper. Okay, so let's look at the defining traits of each class. What makes a wizard? What makes a warlock? These have been taken directly from the 2014 Player's Handbook or the 2024 Player's Handbook, whether that be quotes or whether that be very strongly inferred subtext. Wizards get their magic from book learning. And that is reflected in intelligence being their magic ability score modifier. They practically pride themselves on how smart they are.
I can do this.
Neat. Wow. How do you do that?
Oh, magic.
These surface components barely hint at the expertise attained after years of apprenticeship and countless hours of study. Player's Handbook 2014, page 112. While sorcerers are often quite smug about their magical prowess, they're just naturally talented, same, wizards actually have to study hard, and that is shown by them really being the smartest person in most D&D parties. Wizards are defined by their exhaustive study of magic's inner workings. Player's Handbook 2024, page 165. If we take that information, then look at the 2014 Player's Handbook, it tells us stories of wizards thinking about the situation they're in and then using their book smarts to adjust to the task at hand. Describing how they suss out puzzles and devise strategies by using the magical understanding that they have strived for over years of study. Harry doesn't do this ever. He just doesn't. Ever. He's a man of action, not a man of thinking, and that's going to be so prominent in this video essay. Wizards have got a wide variety of spells to choose from, whether that be offensive, defensive, or utility. In the Player's Handbook 2024, they've got 4 pages of spells to choose from, ranging from 168 to 171. However, to offset this usefulness, wizards are generally, stereotypically, meme-ifiably squishy. Okay, wizard, you absolutely stack it down the stairs, so you're going to take a d4 worth of damage.
All right. I'll die.
Defining traits of the warlock are that they get their powers from their patron, and there is one very specific power that Harry has that is actually confirmed by Dumbledore that he has inherited from Voldemort. It comes up multiple times during the series, and hopefully you can guess which one it is. Leave in the comments if you can guess which ability Harry has that is confirmed to have been transferred from Voldemort. Warlocks use charisma as their spellcasting modifier, so if you were to look at a character sheet for a warlock, you're going to see buffed charisma-based skills such as persuasion, deception, performance, and intimidation. These are skills that Harry utilizes a lot during the series. Generally, patrons push for the people they put into packs to do stereotypically bad things. Try saying that 5 times as fast. Those patrons often rear their heads when their followers have a difficult choice to make, when important moments have happened during the campaign, which could change or define the warlock themselves or the party in their entirety. Unlike wizards, warlocks have got limited spell slots. Even at level 20, they've only got 4 to utilize, so they're gonna have to use their magic sparingly.
I am completely out of ammo.
The PHB 2024 only offers a page and a half worth of spells, but you know what? Who needs magic when you have Eldritch Blast and Eldritch Invocations?
I started blasting. Bang!
Honestly, I'm playing with a Warlock at the minute, and it's like, yo, what do you do in this combat round?
I use Eldritch Blast.
Oh, do you? And the last trait we're going to look at for the Warlock is that Warlock packs could shape their later careers. Player's Handbook 2014, page 105. And this is a real interesting one because Harry's Warlock arc would be amazing if we focus in on this one trait, and I cannot wait to tell you about it later in the video. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. When it comes to backstories, there's a vast difference between wizard backstories and warlock backstories. And this is going to be a massive generalization, so take it with a pinch of salt, but I think it's undeniable. Usually, wizard backstory is about aspiring to something, to prove themselves in the face of adversity. They're always wanting more in terms of knowledge and experience, and they want to share and show that to the world. Warlock backstories, however, tend to be a little bit darker. Warlocks are often about seeking revenge or getting justice for those who have wronged them or their family, and they offer themselves to their patron because they believe that this dark power being offered is going to help them in achieving their goals. You may argue that Harry didn't actually want his pact, he didn't accept a pact deal, it was kind of thrust upon him, but let's focus on that through this video. Not all Warlocks live by their pact or even respect their pact. Look at Will from Baldur's Gate 3 and his deal with Mazora.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Will took the deal from Mazora out of necessity, not that he wanted it. He needed to stop Cultists of Tiamat, which was a big job, so he accepted this deal for his powers, and he saved a lot of people in turn. But obviously, throughout Baldur's Gate 3, his story is essentially trying to get out of that pact. Both him and your Tav can find ways to break the pact through the story, and there's even an achievement for doing so. That, or you take Mazora out. Wait, no, not as a romanceable partner. No. But the long and short of it is that is what Harry is trying to do. He's trying to get out of this pact. He's trying to rid the world of his patron. That is Harry's story. What did I break off my desk? What is that? Oh no! So whilst Harry didn't ask for this Warlock pact, it does come from his backstory that started with his parents, with a prophecy that Professor Trelawney read.
Born to those who have thrice defied him.
Coffee.
Born to those who have thrice defied him. Born as the seventh month dies, and the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal.
This could be argued that his parents almost signed the contract for him, having fulfilled that prophecy, thus signing the Warlock Pact that doomed their child. Someone else signed it for him. Counterfeit. Illegal. Don't do it. Sorry, lesson for the day. Don't commit fraud. Before we just jump into the overarching running trends for the film version of Harry, I really feel we should sit down together and watch the films as a family. And wow, that is a big old watch time. You know what? I'll do it myself and I'll just show you the highlights. For this breakdown, we're not only going to be looking at how many spells Harry and Hermione use, we're also going to be looking at how many unique spells they use because, as we know, a wizard's spellbook is chock-a-block full of choices. There are scenes in which they cast a flurry of spells in quick succession where nothing is verbalized, such as the duel in the Ministry of Magic with Sirius and the duel against Bellatrix in the cornfield with Ginny. I'm gonna count those as cantrips, not actual spells, cantrips. This is because Hermione isn't put into a lot of those situations, and it'd be quite unfair to give all those points to Harry when he's just going pew 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 pew, Eldritch Blast, pew 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 pew, Mage Hand, pew 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 pew. I've got a script here, by the way. We'll also be looking at how many times they're studying in their own time, how many times they are being studious, and how many times they offer information that logically they would have learnt in a book. The spell compilations that I found on YouTube that we're using for this video don't include things like Parseltongue and other random abilities that they both show, so I'll be including these as well because, quite frankly, I think Harry will need all the help he can get. Let's just think of Parseltongue as the spell Speak with Animals, which I acknowledge neither wizard nor warlock can learn, but hey, when you do your video essay on the subject, you can use the rules that you deem necessary. Understand? Good. I'll then be picking out things in the films that Harry does that indicates him being either warlock or wizard, and sometimes there will actually be things that Hermione does that Harry doesn't do, which reflects badly on Harry being a wizard. I'll be writing a film breakdown after each one. I'm writing the script as I go, so let's see how this pans out, shall we? In the Philosopher's Stone, in total, between Harry and Hermione, only 7 spells are cast, only 6 of them being unique spells, with Alohomora being used twice. However, please notice as I'm reading this section of the script, how Harry doesn't feature in this compilation. That's because Harry Potter, the titular character, doesn't cast a spell for the entire film! Harry attends classes, he flies a broom, he takes on the challenges to obtain the Philosopher's Stone. However, we never actually see him cast a spell either verbally or somatically whilst at Hogwarts. I watched all of these films with my fiancée and she confirmed this. Harry doesn't cast a spell at Hogwarts. Fiancée, you can confirm that Harry doesn't cast a spell verbally in the first film, does he? He does not. Thank you very much. She's much smarter and much more beautiful than I am. Bonus fiancé points. Now, this is not to say Harry doesn't do magic. He just doesn't cast a spell. And at the moment he does the magic ability, he doesn't understand what he's doing. He speaks Parseltongue at the zoo and then does the thing where he makes the window to the enclosure disappear and Dudley falls in. Other than that, doesn't do magic. He does this thing at the flying class, but what is that? Is that Accio? Well, it's not Accio, because we know he uses Accio in the Goblet of Fire to obtain his broom, so what is this? I think this is Pact Magic. That is Cantrip Mage Hand from the Warlock spell choices. And we know it's not Accio because Harry hasn't studied anything either in this film. So am I being generous by including Parseltongue and this window disappearing thing that could be Evanesco? Maybe. But either way, that magic happens in the 7th minute of the film, and then he does literally nothing else. Ron casts more spells than Harry in this film. For example, he uses Wingardium Leviosa on the Trolls Club in the girls' bathroom where they save Hermione, whereas Harry does this. You have magic! It's at this point I want to acknowledge that D&D wizards use intelligence as their spellcasting modifier. What was intelligent about that? Nothing. I could flog that dead horse all the livelong day, but we must move on to talk about the dark backstory that comes from being a warlock. I think that the true start of Harry's warlock arc, not the backstory, Harry's warlock arc, starts in the Leaky Cauldron while Harry sits with Hagrid. Harry asks for more information about Voldemort, and Hagrid says this.
That ain't no ordinary cut on your forehead, Harry. A mark like that only comes from being touched by a curse, and an evil curse at that.
Before practically spelling out to Harry that it's his parents' love that defied Voldemort the 3rd time that signed that warlock pact for Harry. that doomed Harry to this life. And then when it comes to learning and studying and increasing their knowledge of the world, Harry isn't one for studying, which is evident because Hermione has 3 times as many shots of her studying and using knowledge that she would have learnt from books.
Just had a thought while editing. You would think surely Harry would go and do his own research into just who Voldemort was. Yeah, he'd do that in his own time, right? But he doesn't. Everything he learns is a lore dump from other characters. Harry doesn't go and study his own backstory.
And this is probably the most important point I will make for Hermione definitely being a wizard. Hermione was born to 2 Muggle parents, and she learned as much as she can before joining Hogwarts. They both got letters on their 11th birthday inviting them to Hogwarts. Hermione must have been on it from day one to learn all the weird wizarding pub trivia she could, like this.
It's not real, the ceiling. It's just bewitched to look like the night sky. I read about it in Hogwarts, a history.
Day 1, defining herself as a wizard when she gets to Hogwarts with the rest of the new students. Before we jump into the Chamber of Secrets, firstly, we have to acknowledge how Harry has the advantage here because Hermione spends an hour of the film petrified.
And yet still,
Comes out on top with wizardly personality traits with her display of knowledge that she's picked up about the situation they're in. She's actively gone out and learned so much about what it could be.
Check out the big brain on Brad. You're a smart mother. That's right.
Harry doesn't do that. Now that's out of the way, onto the film. So in this film, there are a total of 10 spells cast between Harry and Hermione, 7 from Harry and 3 from Hermione, creating a total of 5 unique spells for Harry and 8 unique spells for Hermione. However, there is one spell singularly I would like to focus in on right now, and that is Arania Exame, because of the situation it came up in. Under extreme pressure of trying not to become a spiders at dinner, Harry whacks out Arania Exame twice like it's nothing. I took to the Harry Potter wiki, and this spell is specifically for spiders. Tell me, when would Harry have learnt this? Why would Harry have learnt this? While researching Arania Exame after the video recording, I found this clip from Hogwarts Mystery, a quote from Madame Rakepick saying that Arania Exame is, quote, a very specific spell for a very specific problem. Why would Harry have gone out of his way to learn this? When they jumped straight into the Forbidden Forest, he didn't have any time to learn a new spell. And we can strongly infer that Harry didn't go out and study this spell before going to the Forbidden Forest, because if we look at the statistics, Hermione, despite being petrified for half the film, shows that she has learned information from books or is seen studying in 5 times as many moments as Harry. And she's paralyzed for half the film. Harry even says this at the end.
I can't believe you solved it.
Well, we had loads of help from you. We couldn't have done it without you.
Well, maybe you could have, Harry, if you put an ounce of effort into studying what's going on and doing some research for yourself. But you didn't! It's now that we have to acknowledge that in the Philosopher's Stone, it's Hermione that carries the team when it comes to using useful utility spells. And it's in the second film, Hermione, who carries the team when it comes to doing literally all of the research. Anything Harry discovered was delivered by an NPC, a little lore dump that they're offering out. Whereas Hermione knew about the Polyjuice potion and was the one to brew it, she discovered that it was a basilisk, and she knew the history of Moaning Myrtle. And on the subject of Hogwarts historical students, Tom Riddle's diary does Harry's investigation into the book, which I did count as studying and doing research in his own time. Does that count as magic? I don't think it does. In Dungeons & Dragons, as the Dungeon Master, I would be asking any character to do an Arcana check, or maybe they can use like a passive character feature to work out how the magical diary works, but I don't think it's actually Harry doing magic to figure this out. There's a nat 20 Arcana roll, which also the fighter could have done. And as for Harry's pack magic and spells and abilities he gets from his Warlock patron Voldemort, Dumbledore literally says this about Harry's parcel tongue.
You can speak parcel tongue, Harry. Why? Because Lord Voldemort can speak parcel tongue.
If I'm not mistaken, Harry, he transferred some of his powers to you the night he gave you that scar.
Prisoner of Azkaban is the first film in which Harry genuinely shows some magical prowess when it comes to both offensive and utility spells. He uses 8 times as many spells as Hermione in this film. Yeah, you heard that right. Hermione only casts 1 spell, and that is Bombarda to break Sirius out of the tower. And that is in the last 15 minutes of the film. However, despite Harry, using spells well in this film, there's a couple of moments which have me asking, what kind of magic is this? Because there's a couple of things that I questioned. At the beginning of the film, Uncle Vernon's sister Aunt Marge comes to visit, and when Marge insults Harry's parents, Harry gets understandably angry. And this happens. Whilst, yes, this is magic, it doesn't strike me as a spell. There are no verbal or somatic components, no ingredients needed. It just kind of happens. So to me, this is more like barbarian Path of Wild magic. Harry enters rage, and some random magic happens. This isn't wizarding. Other little magical bits in this film that made me think were that in the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, Harry never actually gets around to casting Ridiculous as Lupin steps in to stop the lesson as the Dementor spawns. Now, it doesn't bother me that much because Ridiculous literally never comes up again in the saga. Otherwise, it would have me questioning when and why would Harry practice this spell. Otherwise, I'd be like, oh, why would he do that? Why is he using it again? Oh, it must just be a warlock ability that he just do. Because why would he practice Ridiculous? Because it's a stupid spell. Got lost there myself for a second. Where am I in the script? There's also the use of the Marauder's map when Fred and George tell Harry how to get out of Hogwarts. We never actually see Harry using the map. He could have simply followed Fred and George's instructions. However, we know he does use it because he follows Wormtail through the corridor and he uses Mischief Manage to end the enchantment when Snape interrupts him. And although in divination class with Trelawney, Harry never actually reads Ron's tea leaves as it's declared he has the Grim. When he returns the crystal ball to the class, he does see a glimpse of Sirius in it, and that actually claims Harry 1 wizarding bonus points because Harry's wizard subclass in this moment could be a divination wizard. However, this is very quickly overshadowed when we look at Hermione's actions in this film. Whilst Hermione only casts her 1 spell, she literally tried to learn as much as possible and take as many classes as possible using the time turner she got from Dumbledore. She is trying to get as much wizarding knowledge possible in her muggle-born brain as she can. Give that girl 4 wizarding points.
Everything's made up, and the points don't matter.
In Harry Potter and the we see a Warlock patron Voldemort making contact with Harry. Throughout the film, Harry is plagued with visions that show him the interactions between Voldemort, Wormtail, and Barty Crouch Jr., waking him up in a cold sweat while his patron haunts his subconscious. Now that sounds like a spooky dark backstory, doesn't it? Throughout this entire film, Harry is seen studying once in the library before the lake task, and once in what I can only assume is like a free study period with Snape, but not once does he find the answer to his problems. It's always someone else finding the solutions for him in this film. Hagrid gives him information about the dragons, Hermione reminds him of his own plan in the Golden Egg task, Cedric for the Golden Egg, Neville for the Gillyweed in the second task, and Professor McGonagall for the dance task. Because that was an awkward watch. It's just, I'm 29. That's still so awkward to watch. However, we have to acknowledge that he shows a lot of quick thinking in the face of adversity by using utility spells. This could be the most wizardly Harry has seemed when it comes to spell usage throughout the film so far, especially when you compare it to Hermione's whopping 0 spells in this entire film. This puts some distance between Harry and Hermione's unique spell statistics, but I'm making a prediction right now that Hermione will bump up her numbers very quickly over the final few films. Back in a sec, I am out of coffee. Order the Phoenix. Order of the Phoenix is the first film in which we properly see the hold that Voldemort has over Harry, infiltrating his life to the point that Harry's party are pulled into battle when they arrive at the Department of Mysteries. Voldemort, the patron in question today, placed a vision in Harry's head of Arthur Weasley being attacked by Nagini, so when Harry saw Sirius being threatened, he jumped, or should I say, flew into action. But Harry did this without a thought. He just did it. There was no plan. He just jumped into action. Voldemort is toying with his disciple well, as is a patron's prerogative. With this in mind, we need to acknowledge that the intelligent thing to do, the wizardly thing to do, would have been to keep doing occupants. I can't say the word. This is like the sixth take. What the intelligent wizarding thing to do would have been to keep doing the occlumency class with Snape. Harry is blinded by his hate for Snape, and that's the reason he stops doing the classes. A D&D wizard would have grit their teeth and kept going to the classes with Snape. They would be keen to learn this element of magic, how to defend their mind from their mortal enemy, despite how they feel for their tutor. But Harry doesn't do this. He lets his emotions get in the way, and then Uno reverses Snape by casting Protego. And that's not the only time that Harry's behavior and mentality flare up during this film. Harry acts out against his teaching role models. He yells at those teachers. He confides in Sirius that he feels angry all the time, and he's questioning whether or not he's going to remain a good person at this stage. And the patron's twisting of Harry's psyche comes to a head at the end of this film when Bellatrix Lestrange kills Sirius. Harry chases her through the Ministry of Magic and, without a thought, casts one of the unforgivable curses, Crucio, at her. This unforgivable curse is specifically the torturing curse. And for just that moment, you can see in Harry's eyes that he fully contemplates doing it. But let's look at the other spells used in this film. Hermione only uses 6 compared to Harry's 10, which is the most spells used by either character in any film so far. Hermione uses 4 more unique spells, whereas Harry only uses 3 unique spells, including the Cruciatus Curse. At this stage in the marathon, I'll be honest, I forgot how many spells Harry cast. I thought Hermione would be like walking away with it. At this point, I just remember Harry casts Expelliarmus, and then Hermione does everything else. Right? No, apparently not. This is closer than I thought at the minute. But then again, we never see him practicing these spells. There's no inference that he is the kind of student to go away and practice this. He's just able to do them. Although, in Harry's defense, this film is basically a setup for the last few films of the saga, so they're not doing a lot of studying anymore, despite them taking their owls. You don't see them doing a lot of studying. That's weird when you think about it. I was going to take a drink of my microphone then. I won't. Obviously, one of the main storylines in this film is Harry raising an army, and we actually see Harry teaching other students how to do magic, including Hermione. However, when I think about it more, it was less teaching, more just doing a rousing speech and telling them what to do, not really showing them. Because you know what? He's probably never practiced them. He doesn't know how to do them, other than swish and flick. Again, if we think about it in D&D terms, I think that this will be less of an arcana role and more of a performance role to encourage these students to find it within themselves that they can do the magic. Other moments in which Harry decides to use a charisma-based role rather than an intelligence-based role would be when he's rizzing Cho Chang or when he needs to find information. He's going to be using persuasion, deception, and intimidation in those moments when he's getting angry at people. Hermione, despite not casting many spells in this film, it does have the quick thinking to trick Umbridge into going into the Forbidden Forest, and her intelligence, her inquisitiveness, and her book smarts can't be overlooked in this film, assisting him in all he does. In fact, Harry actually says this.
The truth is, most of that was just luck. I didn't know what I was doing half the time. I nearly always had help.
And I think it's true. And lastly, for this film, how can we ignore Voldemort literally possessing Harry in the Ministry of Magic? Does that not seem like a very Warlock patrony thing to do? Okay, so Half-Blood Prince is probably the most interesting when it comes to wizarding for Harry. Harry casts a lot of spells, a new highest number. However, 8 of the 13 spells he casts in this film are spells he's already used before, and one of the new spells in this film that he uses 3 times. So take from that what you will. It's also the fact that about 5 of those spells are in quick succession during the scene in which Harry and Dumbledore are trying to secure the locket while Harry's fighting off the creatures of the lake, and this is more spells than a Warlock can do at level 20 in D&D. This is also the film in which we see Harry doing the most studying he's ever done, but it's only ever one book: Advanced Potions. And Harry is only taking potions class because Slughorn lowered the grade to get in. Harry was not studious enough to get into the class in the first place. Otherwise, he would have spent his free period just dossing around with Ron. And the book itself, let's not forget, isn't even his book. It was gifted to him by Slughorn. It could have easily been Ron's Advanced Potions book. And then let's dig into this further. Harry probably isn't even reading the text. He's probably just reading the Half-Blood Prince's shorthand cheat sheet notes that he wrote on the page decades ago. So this is the one class that Harry is excelling in, and he's not even doing the work. And he's still walking around with this undeserved smacker. He's not doing any learning. He's not researching. He's cheating. That's not wizardly. Why did this film make me so angry? One thing he does pick up from the book, though, was the spell Sectum Sempra, which is simply labeled as 4 enemies. This could be offensive, defensive, or utility, but Harry never decided to test this out. He just jumps in and uses it on Malfoy, almost killing him. This could be the stupidest thing Harry has done in any of the films. He didn't research what it did. He didn't think about his outcomes. He didn't have a plan. He acted impulsively as he just sought out revenge. That is not very wizard-like, is it? It sounds more like an action of a warlock. On the subject of Malfoy, this is the film in which Harry starts to believe that Malfoy is a Death Eater. On the way to Hogwarts, Harry wants to infiltrate Malfoy's carriage, so, using the Peruvian darkness powder he got from Weasley's Wizarding Wheezes, he smoke bombs his way into the carriage. As a DM, if Harry had just stuck to using his invisibility cloak, I would have granted advantage in getting into the carriage. However, he decides to smoke bomb the carriage, thus alerting people that something weird is going on, so everyone would be a little bit more on edge, and after that, everyone's tones get a little bit quieter and a little bit more hushed, so it's going to be harder for Harry to hear them. And what does he do? He climbs up on the luggage rack above Malfoy. The man could have just sat on an empty seat and no one would have known he was there. At Hogwarts, Harry's main task for the film is to claim a memory from Slughorn so they can work out what exactly was explained to young Tom Riddle about Horcruxes. In the pensieve, we watch a memory that Slughorn altered in which he describes what a Horcrux is to young Tom Riddle. Dumbledore asks Harry to go and get the real memory from Slughorn. And then Harry does something stupid. Surprise, surprise. Slughorn told Tom Riddle about Horcruxes 50 years ago at this point. So he could have easily thought that Harry was, asking about some other magical artifact, but then Harry decides to pretty much copy the opening line that Tom Riddle used, which would have immediately jogged Slughorn's memory, and in turn, kind of gave away the subtext of the conversation, and Harry ruins the plan right from the off.
I was in the library the other night, in the restricted section, and I read something rather odd about a bit of rare magic.
The other day I was in the library in the restricted section and I came across something rather odd about a very rare piece of magic.
It's called, as I understand it, a Horcrux.
But it just got me wondering, are there some kinds of magic you're not allowed to teach us?
Then even if Slughorn didn't know, Harry just yells out this.
Is that what you told Tom Riddle, sir, when he came asking questions?
A wizard would have probably gone about that a little bit more thoughtfully, wouldn't they? Through the film, Harry rolls a few charisma rolls. In the first scene, we see him flirting, albeit quite awkwardly, with the waitress in the cafe securing a date. He didn't use intelligence to get Slughorn's memory from him, he used a persuasion roll. Slughorn was drunk, so Harry would definitely be rolling with advantage. And then Harry straight up got lucky by drinking the Felix Felicis and deciding that going to Hagrid's was the best thing that evening. Then there was more flirting with Ginny Weasley in the Room of Requirement, which ended in a cheeky kiss for the bloke. However, we cannot deny this failed charisma roll.
She's only interested in you because she thinks you're the chosen one.
But I am the chosen one. Okay, sorry.
There actually isn't a lot to say about Deathly Hallows Part 1. There's a lot of action in this film, and the majority of the spells that they use are utility spells, like doing protection charms and things when setting up camp. The time frame of this film is so long, it's not like these spells are going to have any effect on spell slots that they're using. They can short rest all the live long day. However, despite this film being over the course of many, many months, Harry doesn't seem to use one bit of book knowledge through it, and there's no clearly identifiable intelligence-based roles during this film, but there is a few charisma-based roles. Getting Hermione up to dance is performance, fighting with Ron is intimidation to shout him down, and then encouraging Ron to destroy the Horcrux is clearly persuasion. There's also only a couple of patron visions in this film, one of which informs Harry of another wand maker that he had never heard of before, despite being infamous in the wizarding world, Grigorovich, but then again, I can't really count that against Harry because I don't think Hermione knew either. However, now I say that, this isn't in the script, I've not written it down stupidly, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of lore dumping and useful NPCs in this film. The other one that's really coming to mind is at the Lovegood's house. Luna Lovegood's dad essentially goes, hey, maybe the Deathly Hallows are real. Maybe you should go and look for them and they're out there. And like these NPCs kind of help forward the plot a lot. But then there's two quotes that clearly identify Hermione as being a wizard, both from Ron. I think Ron has a crush on Hermione, by the way. He says these two things.
Come with me. I'll leave Hermione. You're mad. We wouldn't last 2 days without her. Don't tell her I said that. Hermione. You're the best of spells.
Which very much indicate Hermione being a wizard for sure. In Deathly Hallows Part 2, surprisingly, there is only 12 spoken spells from the pair. This film is all go, it's more action, but I actually expected a lot more magic in the final film. Is that obvious to say? I assume so. When the trio come up with the plans, get into Gringotts' vault, they make a Polyjuice potion using Bellatrix's hair. And I'm gonna bring this up again. In the second film, they said it would take a month to make. Even as wizards with more training now, this was a quick decision plan in a home that they have no knowledge of because it's in the shack on the beach, and we don't know what components there are to use, but they seem to manage to get it together lickety-split, and there's no issue there. Sure, fine, we'll look past that, because when the plan to get into Bellatrix's vault goes awry, Harry opts to use the Imperious Curse to bewitch the bank teller in order to get through security. That is another unforgivable curse. Now, whether or not this was the backup plan if things were going wrong, Harry doesn't seem to flinch using this unforgivable curse. And then Ron uses it immediately after the thieves' downfall removes all their magical enchantments. Now, it does seem that the trio are taking dark, desperate measures to overthrow Harry's patron, and the darkness is infiltrating every member of the party. There are a couple of older visions in Deathly Hallows Part 2, hints of where to look to next. Again, just helpful DM says, oh, maybe look over there for the next plot point. There's also Voldemort panicking and slaughtering everyone. I think it's in Gringotts. I never quite got that even now. I could say again that this is just plot forwarding by a useful DM NPC for the trio, but what's more interesting is when Harry elects to invade Voldemort's memory. The only time we have ever seen this is when Voldemort is trying to find out information, or he's trying to influence Harry into doing something, and the fact that Harry can actively do this with Voldemort without practice shows that this is another skill he could have inherited from his patron.
Hello, it's like day 4 of editing this video, and I've just remembered this quote from when the trio escaped from Gringotts and Harry has a vision.
How is it you know?
I saw him.
You let him in. Harry, you can't do that.
Hermione, I can't always help it. Well, maybe I can, I don't know.
Well, Harry, maybe you would know if you kept doing the lessons with Snape, you idiot.
Whilst looking for Voldemort's Horcruxes in Hogwarts, Luna mentions that Helena Ravenclaw, the Grey Lady and daughter of Rowena Ravenclaw, might know where the Ravenclaw diadem is. When Harry meets the Grey Lady, he manages to talk her around into revealing the information she knows about the Ravenclaw diadem. He didn't do this through intelligence, he did it through a pure persuasion role. He makes a convincing argument that he's out to defeat Lord Voldemort, he didn't try to outsmart her, he used pure facts and honesty, and as a DM, I would say roll with advantage because of the situation that everyone's in. And when those Horcruxes get destroyed, Harry feels pain. The fact that Harry feels pain when the Horcruxes are destroyed is a big indicator that Voldemort is a part of him. The fact that his patron is intertwined with his own being, with his actual life force. It's almost like the Warlock patron is trying to harm the host in order to stop the connection from being broken. But then, at the end, it is Hermione who has worked out that Harry is one of the Horcruxes.
I think I've known for a while. And I think you have too.
After Harry uses the pensieve to see the memory he got from Snape at the boathouse that night, he sees that Dumbledore told Snape that a part of Voldemort lives in Harry. Harry is taken aback. However, when he goes downstairs to tell Ron and Hermione, Hermione, at least from this statement, seems to have already worked it out. Whilst this works as a wizarding intelligence point for Hermione, I would still love to know how she worked it out. What was it that pointed her in the direction of Voldemort tying himself to little baby Harry? And I do believe that's all the films wrapped up, so shall we look at the statistics and the overarching plot points? So the grand reveal of who uses the most spells throughout the films. Oh, I didn't expect that. Because the last couple of films are more action than magic, they use the exact same number of unique spells through the film series as a whole. But something isn't sitting right with me. I mean, we've already established that Hermione was petrified for an hour of Chamber of Secrets, and in Goblet of Fire, she didn't cast one spell on screen? Oh, interesting. Okay, let's do some maths. How much screen time did the characters of Harry and Hermione have in each film, rounded to the nearest minute? Harry has a screen time of 540 minutes through the film series and casts a total of 32 unique spells, meaning he casts a spell every 17 minutes of the films. Hermione, however, has a screen time of just 204 minutes and casts 32 spells, meaning she casts a spell every 6 minutes she's on screen. With well under half the screen time of Harry, Hermione is casting a spell almost 3 times as often as the titular character. Given more screen time, there is no doubt in my mind Hermione would have passed Harry by a country mile, whether that be through her own volition or the fact that Harry and Ron are thick as anything, and she is the best in their year at spells. And then when we look at the other statistic we've been monitoring through these films, intelligence and book learning, there is a clear winner. Hermione is seen reading or referencing knowledge she would have learned from books over 3 times more than young Harold Potter. Come on, I've been recording for like 2 hours, let's pie. In Dungeons & Dragons, wizards gain their magic from books, which really works against Harry being a wizard in the D&D universe. So let's look back at the traits of wizards and warlocks in D&D and see how Harry compares. Okay, well, immediately there's 2 we can rule out if we're just using numbers directly taken from comparing Harry and Hermione to the films. Warlock having limited spell slots with no option of what level to cast the spell at. They both cast the same, so that would also make Hermione a Warlock by that logic. And then the wizards have a wide variety of spells to choose from. Much of the same. If it works for Hermione, it works for Harry. They both cast the same amount of spells, kind of negating both those points. So let's analyze the remaining traits that we picked at the start. Wizards get their magic from a book learning. Consistently, Hermione is seen reading and is heard referencing book, whether it be fiction or non-fiction. Harry is rarely seen studying in his own time. Harry just seems to pick up spells from nowhere whenever it's important. Like, let's reference Arania Exmay again. It would have made more sense if he had learnt this in Care of Magical Creatures or something like that with Hagrid, but we know that Hogwarts students don't take that class until 3rd year. Maybe he learnt it in Defense Against the Dark Art class, but that doesn't strike me as a spell that either Professor Quirrell or Professor Lockhart would have taught.
I didn't get rid of the band and banshee by smiling at them.
Let's face it, Lockhart was probably even more useless than Harry when flexing his magical abilities. So it begs the question, when does Harry learn these stupidly situational spells and abilities? Some of the skills and spells are so situational, I might just chuck Ranger into the mix as well. Harry's a Ranger. He's so situational, the stuff he knows. He's never shown practicing spells, but always manages to pull them off in the moment, and that is the trend throughout every single film in this series. He has the exact right spell for the exact right situation, without actually practicing and rehearsing them. Wizards are wise and sagely. This was a fun bit to write. It's safe to say that Harry is a man of action, not thought or planning or processing.
I hope he finds me. Because when he does, I'm gonna be ready. When he does, I'm gonna kill him.
When facing off against Quirrell in the Philosopher's Stone chamber, it doesn't cross his mind to attempt magic. Instead, he goes straight for gouging a man's eyes out. Bit more of a barbarian, if you ask me. Other misguided and stupid decisions of Harry's would be not continuing occlumency with Snape, not even attempting Accio on the Golden Egg in the Dragon task of the Triwizard Tournament. Actually, in the Triwizard Tournament, he didn't try Accio on the egg. During the lake task, he could have just tread water for a bit, and then when he got to the maze, immediately fire red sparks from his wand and get ejected from it. He didn't need to compete at all. Ridiculous. But then, the stupidest thing was casting Sectum Sempra on Malfoy without doing any research into what the spell does. He could have killed a student. Go to Azkaban, do not pass go, do not collect 200 galleons. Stupid man. And according to Reddit, there is so much more. Wizards are squishy. Wizards have only got a D6 for their hit dice, and Harry goes through so much stuff, and he only has to roll death saves a couple of times. Wizards are memed on for their lack of hit points. Yes, Warlocks have only got a D8 for their hit dice, but yeah, every little helps, as a famous supermarket once said. Warlocks get their power from their patrons. I mean, if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Harry doesn't study, but knows an abundance of spells, and he also has class features gifted to him by his patron, like Parseltongue. When you compare him to other people in his life, Harry doesn't show any kind of learning from book smarts. He doesn't show that he has picked up information about the wizarding world through his own doing. He either just knows it, or NPCs kind of lore dump on him, and then he can move on. Anything Harry gets from the world, he just seems to have gifted to him through his patron or through random NPCs. It's Harry's world, we're just living in it. Warlocks are charismatic. Harry manages to raise an army, has mad riz with the ladies, and seems to have every teacher in his pocket and manages to get out of trouble no matter what. Considering Warlocks use charisma as their spellcasting modifier, you have to realize how much Harry gets away with socially. Whether it be persuasion, deception, or intimidation, Harry seems to come out unscathed. Wizards use intelligence as their spellcasting modifier, and I think if there's one thing to take away from this video essay, is Harry is stupid. Harry definitely has a higher charisma ability score than intelligence ability score. Warlock packs could shape their later careers, Player's Handbook 2014, page 105. Seriously, how good of a Warlock story arc does Harry Potter have? Cursed from a baby due to his parents' actions, intertwined with a dark patron for life until they decide that they have to break that pact. They learn everything they can using NPCs and lore dumps throughout their journey before going on a countrywide hunt with their party to destroy the parts of their patron's divided soul before having a showdown at the place that they call home. After defeating their personal byeeee, they go on to work at the Ministry of Magic as an aura, a job specifically made for fighting the dark arts and destroying artifacts that could be used for nefarious activities. Now tell me that is not an awesome Warlock story arc. You can't. That's sick. Warlock patrons usually are a bad influence wanting the Warlock to do bad things. As Harry's arc goes on, his path gets darker, and that is obviously shown by just the title sequences of the films. Not only does Harry take bigger risks and lie to those around him, albeit for good reasons, he uses unforgivable curses. The Cruciatus Curse is used on Bellatrix Lestrange in the Ministry of Magic, and the Imperious Curse is used to gain access to Bellatrix Lestrange's vault in Gringotts. In a D&D story arc of the campaign, this would be the point in which the player character is getting desperate to create some distance between them and their Warlock patron, and is willing to turn to the darkest methods to break the pact.
Hello, Future Will here. I've now been editing this video on and off for 6 days. I filmed the footage on the 5th of February. It's now the 11th, and right now I'm thinking 5th of February Will was a gosh darn fool not to think about this clip from the Order of the Phoenix. When Harry uses Crucio on Bellatrix Lestrange, Voldemort literally comes in, stands behind Harry, and says, "You need to mean it if you want to use the Cruciatus Curse." This is so obvious that the patron is trying to get their host to do something bad, and I didn't think of it at the time. This is clearly the Warlock patron trying to be manipulative and get them to do dark things. Well done me right now. Passwell's an idiot. Passwell's really an idiot.
And lastly, and I have to end on this, wizards actively look to expand their understanding of the magical world. Get ready for a list. It's a rarity that he knows or goes to research things for himself. It's always other characters' lore and exposition dumps that kind of teach him the way to go. He learns all the relevant information needed to further the point through other people so Harry Potter can save the day. So let's give this a quick rundown, shall we? Philosopher's Stone. He doesn't even try to learn about Voldemort, despite that being a big part of his history. Hagrid accidentally lets spill about Nicholas Flamel. Hermione finds out the information about Flamel, and then Hermione and Ron essentially use intelligence to get him through the vault where he meets Quirrell. Chamber of Secrets. Hermione's the one to do all the research in this film, despite being petrified, and then it's Tom Riddle who lets Harry know about the history of the Chamber of Secrets. Surely there would have been something written up about it. Prisoner of Azkaban. It seems like everybody knows about Sirius Black, other than Harry, and Harry doesn't do anything to change this. He just waits for other people to tell him things. Goblet of Fire. For every task, someone has to tell Harry what to do. Hagrid gives him information about dragons. Cedric gives him information about the egg. Neville gives him information about gillyweed. And this all leads to Harry doing some seriously cool in the maze, but yeah, no studying for this boy still. Order of the Phoenix. Neville's the one to find the room of requirement for the Dumbledore's army classes, and then everything Harry learns is mainly given to him through Voldemort visions, or the Order of the Phoenix find it out for him and tell him, and then he does nothing with it. Half-Blood Prince. I'm gripping my coffee mug because Half-Blood Prince makes me angry. Instead of doing his own research into Horcruxes, he literally goes on a scavenging hunt mission for Slughorn's memories on behalf of Dumbledore. He could have at least read up a little bit so he knows what he's walking into. However, he just waits till Dumbledore asks him to do something. And you could argue in D&D terms, he did this through charisma, which relates to Warlocks, rather than intelligence, which relates to wizards. And mechanically, he'd be rolling with advantage because the Felix Felicis luck potion, which he took beforehand. Oh, and on that note, he won the luck potion from Slughorn in potions class earlier in the year. It's one class we see Harry excelling, and it's not even his work, it's Snape's. No, so he doesn't even put the effort into the class either. Anyway, Deathly Hallows Part 1, Dumbledore leaves the trio a trail of breadcrumbs to follow of what they should do next. Xenophilius Lovegood tells them about the Deathly Hallows being a real thing, and then there's massive lore dumps from every NPC that they ever meet, filling in family history that Harry should probably know by now because he should do his own research but does not. Deathly Hallows Part 2, it's Hermione and Ron that think of a way to destroy a Horcrux when they lose the Sword of Gryffindor to Griphook. Luna thinks about talking to the Grey Lady to find the diadem, and Harry just kind of enlists everyone to help him when he gets to Hogwarts. Really could have figured some stuff out before he got there. But he didn't. And that is all of the evidence I have for Harry Potter from the film adaptations being a D&D Warlock, not a D&D Wizard. I honestly have no idea how to end this video now. Any thoughts on the subject? Leave them in the comments below to dish out XP to the other players in our community, and I'll be sure to read the comments as well. Thank you very much for listening to my ramblings. I will see you in the next session. This is going to be such a long edit.